This is Intermission, November 25th, 2020, Thanksgiving Eve. I'm your host, Calvin Cassidy, coming to you from my home in Carl Junction, Missouri. Tonight, I want to revisit what we kind of ended up with on the last session. What is the value of Thanksgiving as a religious holiday? And I, with your permission, want to change religious to spiritual. So it's what is the value of Thanksgiving as a spiritual holiday? 50 years ago, when my wife and I first were married, we celebrated Thanksgiving by getting up on Thanksgiving morning and attending the local Episcopal church at 9 a.m. We dressed. In fact, I remember one Thanksgiving when our girls were dressed as what we thought were pilgrim women, pilgrim little girls. They had really cute little outfits, but the rector at the church informed us that they were dressed as Puritan children. So that kind of straightened me out a little bit on what I knew. And a little bit later on, we're going to share some information about those early Thanksgivings. I say we dressed for Thanksgiving because when we got through with church, we went to dinner and we were already dressed, so that was very, 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 very convenient. At church, we would sing religious songs. In fact, we would sing songs like this in music classes, and I can remember that starting in about third grade, and the Thanksgiving classics was non-religious, Over the River and Through the Woods, but we also sang songs like Faith of Our Father, Come Ye Thankful People, Come, and We Gather Together. After church, we settled in and for the day and celebrated Thanksgiving with our Thanksgiving feast, and there was blessings before the meal, a traditional dinner followed by football and fellowship, and then dessert. But in the later years, the churches faded, as did dressing for dinner, and anticipation shifted from spiritual to shopping. Black Friday was born, and attending movies became afternoon or evening entertainment. With each year, commercialism, however, has taken over, and shopping has become the queen of the Thanksgiving celebration. And shopping kept rising higher and higher and higher on that event list. You'd rest through Thanksgiving meal, and then you would go shopping, because in the last few years, the stores were actually opened on Thanksgiving Day. So what is the value of Thanksgiving as a spiritual holiday? Let's think about what's going on in the world today. Think about what's going on in this country today. Faith, hope, and prayer is all that's left for many, many, many Americans this holiday season. These figures have changed since last week. Now we're approaching 750,000 Americans who have lost their lives to the COVID virus. There are millions of positive cases, millions more of folks in quarantine, and none of these people will be at this year's Thanksgiving table, and many will not be at Christmas either. So we're a population suffering from COVID fatigue. What is the value of Thanksgiving as a religious holiday? Let's look at the needs of our community, the needs of our nation, and the needs of the world. 50 million people, that's up considerably from last week, will be suffering food insecurity, which means they will not be enjoying all the food that they need. Thousands of Americans are homeless, thousands more when the eviction moratorium expires at the end of December. And for those that do have houses, if they can make their house payments, can they make utility payments? Another thing that's deeply needed by families in America today. Let's remember, mortgage debt is its all-time high. Credit card debt also at an all-time high. Businesses are going out of business, your local businesses, and those are the businesses that support your local activities. They support your schools, they support your Little League and your softball activities, and we need to support them as much as we can because we don't need to lose any more of those. Unemployment is at a record number, and unemployment benefits for many will expire in a couple of weeks. Let's promote simplicity in holiday celebrations this year. Let's participate in food drives. Let's build communities in our neighborhoods, in our churches, and in our organizations. Remember, we can only make a difference when we make the needs of others the same as our own needs. And let's look through this thin cloud of commercialism that is camouflaging this nation that's in need. Let's take a few minutes and look at things that are coming up. Today is actually International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women. A very, very important issue. Tomorrow, the infamous Black Friday. Somewhat different this year because a lot of stores have been having Black Friday gifts or Black Friday specials for the last couple of weeks. They've been promoting Christmas since middle of September this year. Moving on, the 28th is National French Toast Day, something I think I might like to participate in. And it's always also Small Business Friday, or Small Business Saturday, pardon me. That's the time to support your local hometown businesses. November 29th, National Lemon Cream Pie Day. Another thing that I would like to celebrate. And it's also the first Sunday in Advent. Have you put together your Advent wreath? Are you ready to light the first candle? The first candle in Advent is hope. We'll have more on the seasons of Advent next week. And the 30th is National Mason Jar Day. But again, for you people who are interested in retail, it's also Cyber Monday. So jump out there and get some of those good gifts online. If you're going to be outside this weekend, the Red Admiral butterflies are searching for wintering sites. I know they haven't completely disappeared because I saw a couple in the yard a couple of days ago before all the rain. The milkweed seeds have popped open, and the pods have popped open, and you see this white fur. The female black bears are in their dens, so we shouldn't be seeing those popping up in our neighborhoods and on the interstates and other places they don't belong, at least until next spring. And on November 30th, there'll be a paranumeral lunar eclipse. Now, the last time I saw one of these, I was in an airplane headed to Las Vegas, and I was able to experience it kind of from way up in the sky. And it is a very interesting evening. If we could have just kept the plane in a straight line, it would have been better for us to view, but we did get to see it from a very unusual perspective. So now let's look at how Thanksgiving actually came to be. Most of you have heard of Plymouth and the Mayflower and the folks that came over on the Mayflower. The first celebration was actually held in 1621, and this documentation was from research from the History Channel. So there were about 100 people aboard the Mayflower that landed off the coast of North America in an area, and they founded the Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts. The historic event didn't happen on the fourth Thursday in November, as it does today, and it wasn't known as Thanksgiving. In fact, it took place over 3 days, sometime between late September and mid-November in 1621, and was considered a harvest celebration. Basically, it was to celebrate the end of successful harvest. Very important. What we're going to find out later on is that first winter took its toll, and it was indeed a celebration, not just of harvest, but of survival. It was a very bad, rugged winter, and also an epidemic that took half of the original Mayflower passengers. So at that first Thanksgiving celebration, there were just over 50 colonists. That's about half of what left sail from England. 22 of those colonists were men, 4 married women, and the remainder, about 25, were children and teenagers. So half of those remaining were children or teenagers. And these were the lucky ones who survived that horrible winter and the epidemic. Now, it's interesting to note that Native Americans outnumbered the colonists a little more than 2 to 1 at that first Thanksgiving feast, as there were 99 followers of Chief Massasoit. And how did they get there? I don't think, and nobody thinks now, that there was an actual invitation extended. That time of the year, this most powerful of all the Indian Society chiefs would make his round to the other tribes, and this was kind of their time of diplomacy, and they would visit and talk about all kinds of stuff. But it's very possible that this crowd, this group of native folks just happened on this scene, and they were welcomed in because they indeed did help provide for the growing of food that helped the colonists survive. I thought that was interesting that there were 99 native people and only 50 colonists, and half of those were young people. Let's talk a little bit now about what they might have eaten back then. Quite a bit different than what we had today. Big discussion about whether there was actually turkey served at that meal. There could have been, but the historical documents that were put together to make this presentation did not clearly affirm that wild turkey was served. They were plentiful in the area, but whether that was the centerpiece of the meal, probably not. Deer meat probably was, because the native visitors provided 5 deer just for the celebration and to be used in other ways going into the winter. There were lots of other things on the menu, but turkey probably wasn't. Shellfish probably was, because it was right on the coast, and it was abundant in the region. Other things, vegetables that were grown in the gardens by the colonists, such as cabbage, carrots, cucumbers, leeks, lettuce, parsnip, and pumpkin, and cranberries, and grapes. No potatoes, no sweet potatoes, no cranberry sauce. There were whole cranberries, and there was also no pumpkin pies. There was pumpkin, but the ingredients to make the pie were not yet available to the colonists. So you can see that their feast was not organized like most of our feasts today are organized, and kind of haphazard as to who is attending. And so you can kind of put that together with the stories you've heard before, and that was taken from an account written on that day by one of the original Plymouth residents. So, as we get ready to celebrate this Thanksgiving tomorrow, remember to make this holiday session meaningful. We must again be willing to give as much to others as we give to ourselves. Have a great Thanksgiving. See you next week. We'll talk about Advent, the beginning of the Christmas season. That's intermission for today. It's time for you to get on with your show.